Loud. Awesome. Welcome everyone to this Saturday training call. Really excited to have you guys all on here. It's, just amazing for me to introduce this gentleman because he's been a huge mentor of mine. And I say that really, like when I joined the industry 12 years ago, I guess 10 years ago, really, when I moved to Utah. So I moved to be around mentors, and Paul Barlow was one of those guys. And he taught me so much about the industry, like the real technical stuff, right? Of how to build, the technical side of like how to look at a company, how to look at comp plans. And, I just still use a lot of that today, Paul. So I just want to let you know that I still consider you one of my probably top 5 early mentors in this industry. So it's really special. And it's really fun because as time, comes across in these relationships, and now you're the president of an exploding company, ixglobal, and you're able to help us all in so many ways. And just to let you guys know, Paul Barlow is a lot of times when I'm needing stuff done, Paul is the one that is making things happen for me. So you guys know in the back end that Paul's just an amazing resource for us. So Paul, welcome to the Saturday call.
Thanks, Chris, and I appreciate the kind words. And you have always been one of my favorite people to work with as well in this industry. And I said, when you find the good people, you stick with them. That's one of the reasons. Keep coming back to the same crew of guys because they're just such good people. So good to be here.
I totally agree, man. Well, I know you get to do the Monday calls and stuff, and that's like kind of more direct. I'd love to hear, if you'd be willing to share maybe a little bit of your story, like early on. I know you got started as a young man in the industry. You've been 20 years now, and maybe just share a little bit about that, like kind of getting started, a little bit of your story, and why this industry, what it's kind of done for you.
Sure. So I guess my story starts as a young man. I was always pretty entrepreneurial growing up. I was looking for ways to, make money and different ways and not non-traditional ways, I guess, even as a young teenager. I remember one time I did one of those, what do you call it? Those back in the old days, for those of you that remember the old days with me, the letter mailing thing where like, they say, okay, if you mail, $1 to all these people and they're going to do that, they're going to do that, and they're going to get, I didn't get any money from that. But that's the kind of, kid I was. That was like when I was like 16. I remember sitting there with all my little things, writing out addresses and putting $1 in envelopes and sending them off. And, that's where I'd say it probably started. I unknowingly started the industry at 18 years old. I was signed up into a network marketing company, unbeknownst to myself. And when I went to college, I answered a job board, and then it ended up being I know now that it was a network marketing company. I still had no idea then. I had just bought like a distributor kit. I didn't buy the big kit, so they didn't call me back. I only bought like the very minimal kit. It was for something called web TV back in the day, because we were going to have the TV on the internet back in 1998 or 1997, actually.
It's a dumb idea, Paul. Dumb idea.
I know, it's terrible.
Never worked.
That's where like I said, but I had no idea that it was a network marketing company until now. I look back and I remember the presentation I went to, and it was basically starter packs and a comp plan and all that. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, that's what that was. So I grew up in the Mormon church. I went on a mission to Brazil. So I speak Portuguese now. When I got home, I learned Spanish, specifically because I knew there's just so many more people here in this country who speak Spanish, and being able to do business, that was where my mentality was at about 21. And when I got home, I went right back to college. And within the first couple of months of getting into college, I got recruited knowingly into my first network marketing company. I was recruited into Amway Quickstar, and it's the oldest and the biggest of all of them. And I've got a lot of gratitude for everything I learned there. I took it pretty seriously, as much as a 21-year-old immature kid could take it, because I was not very mature at that age. There's a lot of younger guys I watch in the industry now that are way ahead of anywhere I ever was at that age. But I did learn a lot. I learned how to start doing a business. I learned about, the basic, the things you need to do in network marketing to be successful, recruiting and events, and, some leadership skills and all of that. Didn't make any money, but it did learned a lot. And then from there on, it was just in my blood. I live in Utah right now. I grew up in Southern California, but I live in Utah, and Utah is the world capital of network marketing companies. full stop. There is nowhere else on the planet that has as many network marketing companies per capita as this state does in such a small area. So I got recruited into another company and then another company, with over the next few years. I don't need to go into all of those, but it took another 5 or 6 years before I actually started to make an income. I got involved in a young growing company, kind of like what we are right now. I got in about this time, when the company was doing 1-2 million a month in sales and that range, and they were starting to explode. And I was able to fortunately get on the back of that momentum, and I had a few skills at that point, and I had a little bit of understanding, and I was able to make my first 6-figure income in the field at that point in time. Fast forward then another few years, started working with Chris and with many of the others that you guys know in your upline team, and our owner, Joseph Martinez, Brian Robert, and many of these other people in a young company and a small company that was really cool. We just couldn't ever really get it off the ground. There was a number of issues with that. We did okay, but we were never a big company. But we then went from that one to a company that got huge, and we were part of exploding a company back in about 2013 to 2015. That was really exciting. A lot of us probably made the most money. That's the most money I've ever made as a distributor in network marketing, and I'm sure a lot of other people can say the same from that time period, because it was really special. We caught lightning in a bottle, a really cool concept, and some of those concepts are in our current plan today, and they started with that company. So like our VIP bonuses, they originated from this company 7-8 years ago. They were the first ones to create that kind of style of payout, and it was very, very exciting. So a few years before that, when Chris and I were in the same original project together, I started doing consulting for the industry because of my languages. I learned pretty well how to open a lot of countries in Latin America. It's something nobody really knows how to do very well, especially in this network marketing niche. So I started to fulfill that niche, and being here once again in Utah, 80% of my potential worldwide clients are within a half an hour drive of my house. So it was pretty fortuitous for me to get involved in that. And from that, I started to piggyback also into some executive positions. My first executive position was in that original project Chris and I were working on about 9 years ago now. And then after some things went on, I was the U.S. director for a large Brazilian network marketing company here in the United States. I opened them up here, and I was running the company for a few years. And now, fortunately, Joe gracious enough to bring me on as the president of ixglobal. So I know it's a long story, but that's I figured that was to give the long. Normally, I give the 2 minutes version, but I figured this might be the venue to give the full story today. And so
exactly what I wanted, Paul. I love it.
Cool. I know that's I'm glad, because that's I normally don't tell that full story, but I feel like I have a relatively unique background then in network marketing. I've been an unsuccessful distributor. I've been a successful distributor. I continue to consult in the industry. I haven't stopped doing that, and I have some experience as a corporate executive. So I've spent time on pretty much every side of this that you possibly can. Nobody knows everything. I don't know everything, never will. But I do think that now I have a pretty solid and ample experience to be able to help, a lot of people do well in this space moving into the future.
I love that, Paul. And, I jokingly told, just funny because you said we all come back together. I kind of joked with Joe whenever I joined the company. I said, Joe, it must be just destiny that we're going to go do this together, because we're all back together, right? It's like we all came back. Right. And yeah. So Paul, there's a couple things I'd like to hit on, because you know me, I usually run off the cuff, right? So it's kind of like I get excited. One of the things I'd like to ask you is why ixglobal for you? What is what is that reason you're here, and kind of like that piece for you?
That is a great question, and the number one answer to that, there's several answers. The number one is Joe Martinez, because I know Joe. And the more that I've been in this industry, the more people who are honest, transparent, and actually care about others becomes the number one most important thing to me. I'd rather work with someone who has that mentality and isn't very capable yet. I can teach you competence. I can teach you capability. I can't teach you honesty. I can't teach you transparency. That's just that's who you are as a person. And Joe has that in spades. He's a very caring like I say, just very honest person. He's going to do what he says he's going to do. And that's why I say sometimes he feels the weight of the world when things aren't going so well, because he knows, other people might be struggling and suffering with different, adversities that go on. And so he may be a little gruff sometimes and a little bit hard to connect with, but that's because he cares so much. So it's real exciting to work with him. So the other reason is conceptually, I believe is the way that this industry is moving into the future. I do not believe that in the future, pure service companies or pure product companies are going to do very well. I think there needs to be a hybridization moving forward. I think that where we're going with a platform approach is the way that the future is going to be. Now, there's going to be legacy companies, of course, that do well forever just because they're legacy. But I'm saying new emergent companies in this space. And I believe that our approach, both from that aspect and angle, the platform approach where we can bring services, we can bring products, all of that that was exciting to me. Also, being willing to entertain new ideas. Joe's willing to, we're trying to bring in some affiliate style, elements into the company. We have, the marketplace that we're putting out where people can just direct sell to others, and make a direct commission off that. So some of those types of things, but not just your mom's network marketing, where it's just hey, go build a downline, or don't worry about anything else. That's just the way it is. Say no, now we have different avenues and different approaches through which you can go and try to generate an income. And I think that's extremely important moving into the future. And finally, just the compensation model. I really believe that in this type of compensation model, and I believe that you need to pay the base quickly of the company, the newer people, the people that are just starting. And the only way to do that I've seen is through this club style plan. Every other compensation plan in existence, unilevel matrix, binary, hybrids of all of them, only pay the bigger distributors. And that to me, it just, beyond the human element, just from a numbers element, it makes it an unsustainable proposition, because then more people are always going to be dropping out at the bottom because it takes so long for people to earn what their auto monthly order is, and then also to earn a part-time income. Whereas here, and in these types of plans, we're not the only company now, of course, that does this, but in this style of a plan, you can make a life-changing income within a month or two, or 3 or 6 in a reasonable period of time as a part-time person, which has always been the proposition we've sold in network marketing, but it just never has been reality. The reality has been, until this type of plan came out, you had to really get to a full-time status to really make money. And here, it's just not necessary. And that to me is extremely exciting.
And Paul, I have to say, that's what really blew me away in this company is the hybrid model of our comp plan. The genius behind it, and merging pretty much, in my opinion, the two hottest comp plans you could put in, right? Like if you were going to start a company, you're going to do a hybrid binary, you're going to do a club base, and Joe said we're going to smack the two together and just pay an unbelievable. But yeah, I love that, and that was actually, I'm glad you hit on that, because I was going to ask you kind of a little bit about the comp plan and what we're doing. Can you just hit on that, just kind of from an industry's point, because you're so smart. I'd say you're so smart, but you're so knowledgeable about the industry. What do you believe between our comp plan and the rest of the industry? I mean, I like to call it evolution, because I don't like to get too cocky and say, oh, we're the absolute best, but I believe it's an evolution of comp plans. What's kind of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I mean, because compensation plans are always iterative. They always build on each other. They've been building on each other since the original stair-step breakaway plans of the Amways and Herbalifes of the world from 40, 50 years ago. And then in the early 90s, we got the first binary with companies like USANA and IHI, and Unilevels were coming in before that. There's just there's several different ways to skin the cat. And what we're doing with this, with like the most modern approach of hybridizing this club-based approach with a binary is really exciting. Like I said, I'll never say it's the best plan in the world either, just because somebody could come up with something new tomorrow, but I will say it's the plan I've seen pay the most money in my career. Number one, I see the numbers on the back end. I've never seen a plan pay this much. And beyond that, it's just the way that they build off each other. So when we did the original iteration of this compensation model 9 years ago, when Brian, so the three people that created it were Brian Robert, a gentleman named Richard Smith, and a gentleman named Joshua Fair. The three of them together brain mastered this whole club concept. And so I like to give all three of them credit for it. But when they did that, the problem was that was the only thing we had. And you're going to see some other companies in the industry out there, good companies that are competitors of ours, but that's all they do. They just do the clubs. And the problem is once you hit a certain level in these clubs, the jumps become so big that it becomes really difficult for a leader to stay engaged. Because if I'm at a 100,000 point level and I need to jump to 250,000 now to rank up, and I'm not going to make any extra money in the way, I get frustrated. And that's where the frustration comes in for the bigger leaders. The bottom's always happy in a club plan because of the 3 for free approach, then the $500-ish for a small amount of people, anywhere from 10 to 20, depending on the company. So that's exciting for the base, but you have to have leaders that are pushing the company, and that's where the weakness is. A binary, there's all kinds of weaknesses in binaries. We only have a short call here today. If you ever want to get into a detailed discussion of the pros and cons of all the traditional plans, we can do that and talk for 3 or 4 hours about it. But the long story short, binary is a leader's plan. Binaries are only for top leaders. Binaries do not benefit the small guy. Most binary companies, it's really the bottom 80-90% feeding the top. That's the best way I can play it. Binary is the absolute worst comp plan, in my personal opinion, by itself for a brand new distributor in this industry. I think it's terrible. So, but when you put the two together, we've brought the strength of the club plan, which is the aggressive early on payout, and then the back end benefits of the leader plan, which is the binary. So you can get to a 6-figure income with ixglobal relatively quickly, focusing on the clubs. And that's what I always teach. I say you should focus first on the clubs, then on the binary. Don't worry about your binary to start with. Focus on the clubs, then worry about the binary. And then once you hit, VIP 8,000 and you're at that level, then you can start. Now you've got enough of a foundation and a base, and you're not building from your knees. You have enough money to then be, okay, now I can look long-term at this binary approach, can take the next 2 to 3 years, try to build, whatever it is you're looking for, 20, 50, 100, $200,000 a month income. You can do that with this plan. And so that's what gets me so excited about it. And it just, like I said, there's no such thing as a perfect plan, but our hybridization of these two really minimizes a lot of the negative elements that I could tell you about of the two different types of plans.
No, that's awesome, Paul. And that's how I feel too, whenever you teach it. And it really, when people understand it, it blew my mind when I saw that so many of the positives, right? And that they complement each other really well. And so, and just speak on real quick. I know Brian was talking to Joe the other day, and he was saying that he can't believe some of the checks he's starting to pay, some of the growth. Can you talk about kind of what's happening with the growth in the company and the checks that are being paid? And we're really, for being such a young company still, where we are, and maybe compare that a little bit to what in the industry of like something that's as young as we are, having the growth we are, and just I just see a big long-term successful, just the way this foundation is, right? If you could hit on that.
Sure. So to me, there's 3 key elements to a successful network marketing company before you even get into the network marketing company. Number 1 is you have to have enough capital to do it. Number 2 is you have to have good management that knows what they're doing and actually has a long-term approach. That's the best way I'll say it, that which includes having the distributor's best interests in mind and this and that and the other, which many don't. And then number 3 is you have to have good leaders. You have to have, because there's a lot of people that might get those first 2 together, but if you don't have strong, quality, experienced field leadership, the competition's just too strong today to build, in my personal opinion, unless, maybe there could be a company that proves me wrong, but without at least 1 or 2 key field leaders to start, it's a really, really difficult proposition to build from the ground up in this day and age. Unfortunately, we were able to bring those things together. Joe was able to self-fund this and to get all of the things put together to give us a system that works. It's not perfect. We're continuing to iterate on it, but it is enough to get us where we need to go. He is the right type of person. I hope that I can include myself now in being the right type of person as far as a long-term approach and looking to take care of the reps and make sure we're doing everything we can to do that. And then number three, our big leader in India is who started Viraj Patel, started that with Joe, a year and a half ago. And he was able to really, come out the gates, guns a-blazing. India is a very unique market in the industry right now. There's high barriers to entry. And so it's hard for most companies to get in, but if you can get in, there's just not a lot of other, players. So that's kind of, we've been able to take advantage of that, which has been great. And now with that initial success, we've piggybacked and now we have so many good leaders that are coming in from around the world that have, like I say, the requisite experience and ability to build a newer company. Because, it isn't easy to build a new company because things aren't perfect. Things there aren't going to be perfect. It takes 5 to 10 years for any company, and I'm not even just network marketing, but any company out there to really get their systems down, to really get everything to be just a humming engine. And those are the good companies, right? I mean, some companies are 5, 10 years into it and they're still not, right? So that's kind of where we're at right now. We've had the elements, we've gotten past that initial hurdle. To me, you have to get to that $500,000 to $1 million a month in sales now as quick as you can, because otherwise it's going to be really difficult to sustain with the competition that's out there in this day and age. We've blown past that. We're doing over $2 million a month in sales right now in our, so we started May last year. So it is June, July, August, September. So we're 16 months into this, and we've been doing a couple of million a month plus for a few months now. So that's really exciting. I think, like I say, some of the growth of the company is going to come now as we get these systems, even better, as we, fix some of the back end issues, because we had a basic system to run things to start. Now it needs to become a more complex, more advanced system, and there are some growing pains in that process as you iterate and alter and grow from one thing to another. But as those come into place, I think you're going to see a lot of the rough edges smoothed out. And you say we're doing so well already, but that's where I see the path to 5, 10, plus $1 million a month in sales over the next couple of years as we continue to do those things.
That's awesome, Paul. And just I'd love for you to hit on kind of that part, because I know you guys work really hard in the background. I know there's a lot of things that are working well. I know that you guys are constantly updating your programmers. Just like you said, there's a list of things. And I know a lot of, we talk to, I talk to our field and we're always telling and reassuring them like, hey, these things are coming. These things are working through. We're working on them. Can you just hit on kind of, I guess I would like, maybe just what's going on in that background and just,
Sure.
the kind of, I know you guys are full steam and you guys, like you said, it's when you're in a new company and trying to expand it, just all these moving parts. And of course, when something expands, there's another moving part to work on. So yeah, if you could just hit on that for everybody.
Sure. So when Joseph started the company a year and a half-ish ago, and was in the process of getting the company ready to go, he initially, he had projections initially of where he thought we might get to, and we're so far beyond those now that it's compressed the timeline. And that's where, so he had created a system based on a certain number of people and distributors and things that he had in mind. And we've blown so far past that it's, that when you have, not all computer systems and back-end systems are created equal. And something that might work for 100 people might work for 1,000, 10,000 might start to get weight on it. And once you get to 50 to 100,000, then you're like, oh man, now there's all these issues that we just never had to deal with when we were smaller. And that's kind of where we're in that point now, and we know what the issues are, and we're working on fixing them. We're working on bringing the entire subscription system and product system in-house. We had a third-party software that we've been using for that. That's where most of the problems originate from. We've reached the limits of its capacity, and so there will probably continue to be some exceptions on the edges here for another month or two. But we're already working on then a fully vertically integrated system that should remove all of those problems. And then beyond that, you see the product offerings that we've brought on over the last 6-ish months, and we're going to continue to improve those. We're not really looking to add anything else from a platform standpoint for the next little while until we get really, really good at what we have, because we have so many things now, and you don't want to get caught, with too many plates to spin, and then they all crash at the same time. So trying to take the plates we've got, keep them spinning, get them spinning as well as we can. And then, that's kind of where we're at. We're just also fine tuning and tweaking our own internal systems. We as a company have had to grow really fast. We've had to, hire a bunch of people, train people, get them up to speed, but we're getting there with a lot of those types of things. And so then go ahead, Chris. And I have one point that I do want to not forget to make before we go.
No, go for it, Paul. I'm loving it.
So with that said, I want to transition. So back, I actually was a new skin distributor also back in my early days, and one of the biggest network marketers in the world was in that company. And he said something that stuck with me then, and it stuck with me ever since. And he says this all the time, actually. He says, look, and he was referring to new markets. For us, it's the whole company, really. And he was talking about new country markets. This was the context. But he said, look, they're the first people in have first mover advantage is a real thing. It's an absolutely real big deal. And when you come in to one of these companies and things are growing and all of that, it's all about your market share. You have to acquire market share, because once if you go through the difficulties at the beginning of these companies, you're willing to deal with some of these, startup issues and all of that. If you come in and get about 10% of the downline in the first couple of years, well, you're going to have about 10% of the downline as it goes into momentum. Does that make sense? If you have 1%, you're going to have that 1% roughly as it goes into momentum, and that expands and it works. And I've watched it from every company to company to company over the last few years. So does that mean the opportunity doesn't exist for people who come in later? Of course not. It just means that they can't take advantage of that explosive growth by positioning themselves and creating that initial network ahead of a growth wave. Now, let's say a good company should have multiple growth waves, right? And that's what we hope to have as we move forward. But if you have to be positioned, you can't, if you get in the middle of the growth wave, you can have some success, but you will not be one of the top successful people in the company if you did not prepare the way ahead of the growth wave, if that makes sense. So that's where we are right now. And that's really what I want to share with you guys. It's like, keep that mentality of, hey, we're building for the future. Yes, you can make some solid money right away. And like I said, for most people, a couple thousand a month, 4,000, 8,000, whatever is going to be enough. But for the big leaders here on the call that are looking for those multiple 6-figure and maybe even 7-figure incomes, that's a key principle, and it's something I wanted to share. And so continue to build your foundation here. And I understand we'll all get a little frustrated here and there with some of these things, but as things can unlock, it's going to grow, and you can only see that exponential element a couple of years down the road. It's not going to appear right now as you're building this foundation. So it's for what it's worth.
Paul, I'm going to close this call on that because that was incredible, and you said it better than I could have. And I know the guy you're talking about, and he makes a ton of money, and that's so true. And it is the ones that go through. And it's funny to look back, right, Paul? You see these guys that are so successful, but you don't get to see that point. You realize they were in those companies when it was, they were dealing with those problems. And actually, Brian Robert, my mentor, he's mentored you, Paul. He told me, he goes, look, everybody asked me, what's the difference between a big builder? He goes, the biggest builders are problem solvers. You're solving problems, you're keeping them motivated. And I have always taken that to heart. It's like, and then you also have the people that you always have those people that focus on them, but it's like, how are we going to get through it together? And man, this is a great time. I'm so glad you're willing to jump on here and take time out of your Saturday. Next Saturday, we're going to do a super Saturday. I know I'm late to the thing. I know I mentioned it. I'm going to get a flyer. Ozzy's like stuck in Dubai, but we're going to do a 3-hour super Saturday next week. We're going to record it. We're going to do TED Talk style. It's going to be virtual. We're going to do it probably 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I believe, Gabby, that's like 5 p.m. your time. It's going to be 3.5 hours of just straight content, like 20 minutes. We're going to go through. I'm going to work on getting some of our product specialists on there and some different stuff. So next Saturday, put it in your calendar. I know it's only a week away, but that's how we roll. Chris is, just a little unorganized, but that's okay. We're going to get through it. So, but yeah, plan on next Saturday. And Paul, thank you so much for jumping on here, and everyone. And we'll get this recording out because this was a fantastic call. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. See you later.
All right, everyone have a great and safe weekend. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.